Do some
Here
snowfall
we
is possible.
grow again with these storms. Okay, so whose channel is this again? Oh no. Oh no. Ryan Hall, y'all.
26th, 2026, and we've got a lot to talk about today, including a winter storm taking aim at the Ohio Valley and Northeast and a significant heavy rain and flooding threat developing across the South. Let's jump right into it. Starting off with a little bit of an update on our upcoming storm to the Ohio Valley, upper Midwest. This is what we've been talking about. This is the main reason why we're making a video today, is just to give you an update on this. We talked about it yesterday, and the signal is starting to come through a little bit better now. It's starting to look like this is going to be less of a big deal. We still have Des Moines, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Charleston, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, and all these places, and a 15% probability for potential significant winter weather, but it's still just a 15% probability. And things have changed a little bit from yesterday to where we've got more confidence now in what might happen. But a wintry mix to some snowfall is possible here. And then as we go into the day 5 outlook, that translates over to the coast, where from Richmond, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, Providence, Boston, Concord, all the way up there to St. John, and then all the way back to Pittsburgh, Utica, and Montpelier.
Good
we
Lord.
are looking at the probability for
That's
some
like
wintry
another couple
precipitation.
thousand
The farther
storms.
south you go, the better chance that this might be a mix. The farther north you go, the better chance that this might be snow. And honestly, a lot of the models are showing a more suppressed system, and the farther north you go, maybe the less likely that you get any snow at all. So let's take a look at this on the GFS here and take a look at the messy system that's going to impact the Ohio Valley and Northeast on Sunday into Monday. This is not looking like a blockbuster storm, but it will bring a
But you
swath
never
of
know.
wintry precipitation that could
And they
make
wanna
travel
scare you.
difficult. Moisture is going to overrun
What
this
kind of
cold
snow,
air
y'all?
mass, and it's going to set up this classic stripe of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. And, you know, in previous model updates, it was showing a more expansive precipitation field here, but you can see that this is very suppressed. It's covering a very small area,
Very
and then as it
weird.
gets over to the East Coast, at
It
least here on the
stretches
GFS, it
out.
doesn't curl up the coast like a traditional
Like it
nor'easter.
normally
It just
would,
stays
right?
suppressed.
A
And if this is the
nor'easter.
case, then we're going to be looking at mostly
Weird.
feeling impacts around St. Louis, down through Louisville, into my neck of the woods in eastern Kentucky, where even though this isn't looking like a big storm, that freezing
That don't mean
rain area
nothing.
does still look concerning to me, and it's something that we have to watch for a potential ice storm for some localized areas, more than likely.
We had a crazy ice storm when I was a kid. So like 91, I think. And it was in April. I'm gonna have to fact check that right quick. Hold on.
The ice storm of the century hit the Midwest in early March of 1991, not April, causing widespread damage, especially in Minnesota and Iowa. It's often confused with the Halloween blizzard that occurred later that same year.
Oh my god. Halloween blizzard. Can you tell me about the Halloween blizzard? And I know. Tell me about the Halloween. Let me know about the Halloween blizzard, and then I also would like to know what it was like for Indianapolis with this ice storm in 91. Okay, so technically it was March, and the ice storm of the century earlier that month devastated Minnesota. The mid-March event was Indiana's equivalent. Central Indiana impact. The storm coated parts of north central Indiana with 1 to 3 inches of ice. Yeah, it was wild. We didn't have power for a few days. While the heaviest ice was slightly north of Indianapolis, hitting cities like Anderson, check, Lafayette, check, and Kokomo, particularly hard, check. And the impact reverberated throughout the metro area. Power outages. Over 2,000 homes lost power across the region in Indianapolis and surrounding counties. Many residents were without electricity for several days as over 100 steel power towers and thousands of poles snapped under the weight of, yeah, I do remember that. The April confusion you may associate with April because restoration was so slow. Some rural areas in north central Indiana, that would have been me, did not have their power returned until the first part of April. Could we look into when? Well, okay. I wasn't asking you to look into attendance logs, I'm just saying. indicate that Anderson and surrounding Madison County areas essentially halted work, school, and travel due to 1 to 3 inches of ice. Yeah, we had no power for days. Most schools in the county were closed for several days to, I feel like a full week. I feel like it was like a week without power, at least 5 days. Basically, nearly 200,000 homes in the region lost power, for many school buildings were utilized as emergency shelters during the outage rather than for classes. Probably. Interesting. No, go ahead. For a dramatic temperature crash and the earliest arrival of significant winter weather in decades. In October, the weather shifted the trick before the treat. The days leading up to Halloween were actually quite mild, with temperatures in the mid-60s. As late as 10:29, the cold front, a powerful Arctic cold front, arrived on October 30th, causing temperatures to plummet to 32 degrees by the morning of Halloween. A Halloween blizzard was burying Minnesota under 2+ feet of snow. Central Indiana was on the southern edge of the system, experiencing cold, heavy rain that transitioned into snow flurries and freezing rain overnight. Your memory of it being exceptionally cold is accurate. The week following 91 remains one of the coldest early November periods on record. By early November, an Arctic air mass settled over the state. In some years, November 4 has seen record lows of -3. What about recently? This extreme cold was fueled by the same atmospheric perfect storm off the East Coast, yada yada. Okay.
Between Kansas City and Richmond, Virginia. There's still a lot of uncertainty on the exact track of where the rain-snow line is going to set up, so the forecast will likely shift north or south by 50 miles over the next couple of days, but plan for a slower commute on Monday morning if you're in Pennsylvania, New York, or New England.
Did you struggle with social media addiction when you were
Okay.
younger? Many
Oh
of
my
us grew up
God.
on platforms designed to keep us hooked.
That's a
And
thing.
for some, it seriously damaged mental
It
health.
is.
Did you
or New England.
I think the bigger story for this video is going to be the massive pattern flip that we're about to experience. I mean, just look at this warm air that we're going to have on Friday. 4 p.m. Friday, we're going to be so above average across the heart
kind of
of
like
the
what
country.
we
It's
just
not
read
even
about.
funny. 36 above your average temperature in Denver, 40 above in
What is
Omaha
that?
and Topeka. It's going to be warm in Chicago. But notice how we've got this big plume of cold air coming out of the north. That's what's going to actually overrun that moisture coming out of the south and cause our storm this weekend. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a huge storm, but this cold air is going to be responsible for whoever gets snow and ice this
Are you
weekend into early next
serious?
week. And that is some really robust cold air, but most of it's going to be locked up there into Canada. Notice how those purple colors are getting stuck up there north of the lakes. That's where we're going to see temperatures that are cold enough to actually cause a lot of problems. Generally, colder air is going to make it down into the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and that's where we're going to see some of those mixed problems and stuff. But it really doesn't stick around very long. Notice how the warm air comes back into the picture as we go into March 5th, especially in the southeast. We're going to have very warm temperatures. A lot of that's going to try to creep up into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Check this out, widespread warm temperatures
It's warmer
across
over
the
here.
majority of the United States as we go into the weekend after
Why
next.
is
This
it
March
colder
8th,
here?
and
What am I not
March 8th
understanding?
is crazy. I mean, look at this. Widespread temperatures that will feel very much spring-like from Minneapolis and Sioux Falls all the way down into Oklahoma.
Why would it be colder down here than up north?
Dallas,
We're talking about Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, especially Washington, D.C. We're talking about temperatures 30 degrees above average. We're talking about 60s or 70s here, potentially all the way up into New York City and Boston as well. And that snow is going to melt fast if it hasn't already. By the time we get to March 8th, it's going to be melting very, very fast. But notice how we have cooler than average temperatures working into the
Cooler
west.
than
This is what I'm
average?
talking about with that potential pattern flip, right? We've been seeing having warm temperatures in the west, cooler temperatures in the east. Now we're going to suddenly flip, and that's going to set the stage for lots of storms. So yeah, a major pattern flip is on the horizon for next week, and it brings a serious return of severe weather and flooding risks. I think that there's going to be several days where we have slight or enhanced risks of severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center, and there's going to be slight and potentially even moderate risks from the Weather Prediction Center for excessive rainfall and flooding, because we are watching a deep trough ejecting into the plains by the middle of next week, specifically Wednesday into Thursday. You can see that this loop here shows a nonstop deluge of thunderstorms and heavy rain from around Dallas all the way up to Chicago and as far east as Cleveland and Pittsburgh and as far south as back towards Nashville. I think that we've got some real severe weather threats that we're going to be dealing with here. But the big story is going to be heavy precipitation across the Tennessee and lower Mississippi valleys. We've got 6 or 7 days out in the future here for this to refine and for this to change. But the confidence is high that we're going to be seeing a lot of water in this general vicinity here. It's way too early to talk about specifics for, severe weather, but this is a signal that screams flooding risks to me anyways, especially for the southern plains, the deep south, where we're going to have multiple rounds of heavy thunderstorms and a renewed flash flood threat. The Storm Prediction Center is also highlighting this area and this time period for an organized severe weather threat, so we've got to be looking at our next chase day. Storm chasers are going crazy right now, thinking about the potential for this upcoming active severe weather situation in early March. This volatile stretch is going to kick off on Monday, Tuesday, but really Wednesday, so take this weekend to clean your gutters and prepare.
Take this weekend to clean your gutters. We literally have no choice but to, because like every year they inspect our home and we have to have our gutters done by the 5th.
For a very active week ahead. We will be refining the exact severe weather zones as we get closer, but the signal for a potent storm system is loud and clear. Check it out, y'all. This is the rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center from Oklahoma City up to Indianapolis, from Springfield down to Jonesboro, from Kansas City over to Nashville. This is the hot spot for heavy rain over the next 7 days. A lot of this is going to fall towards the end of the 7-day period, and this isn't even all of it. This is on the low end, I think. 2 to 4 inches of rain widespread from Springfield, Missouri, up to St. Louis, up towards Indianapolis is going to be the norm. There's going to be areas that see more rain than this. And the cool thing about this rain threat is that it actually overlaps with where we have some drought problems. So a lot of this drought right here is likely about to be relieved over the next week or two as we have that cooler air settling into the west, mixing with the warmer air in the east, and where those...
I'm just saying, after a drought happens and it's been droughty, drought kind of sounds wet, but anyway, where it's been dry, doesn't the water just sit and then you have flooding, or what?
Those two air masses meet, we're going to have significant rounds of thunderstorms and potentially severe weather, but also just lots and lots of rain. Here's a look at the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. You can see very clearly here that an area from Dallas up to Memphis through Springfield, even Detroit and Chicago, is highlighted in a much above normal zone as far as precipitation goes over the 6 to 10 day time period. So that means 6 days from now through 10 days from now, things are going to get plumb wild over here with the storms and the rain. And that coincides pretty well with our 8 to 14 day outlook for temperatures, all right? You can see that pattern flip very clearly here. Much warmer in the east, and we're starting to level off a little bit in the west. This isn't a huge signal for very cold temperatures in the west, but it is a huge signal for very warm temperatures in the east. And I think that this is going to really kick off our severe weather season. Who knows what we're going to be dealing with by the end of March, but it definitely looks active to me. And that's all the weather talk I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you slap a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Interesting.
Did your teenager develop depression, anxiety, or eating disorders?
That these are the things. I'm just saying. Commercials.